Today, we gather as God's people with a particular focus on listening to what God is saying to us as a church. We will praise God as our Creator, thinking about how we can worship God alongside the rest of creation, as we shall see in the words of Psalm 104, which we will hear this morning. With the psalmist, we will pray that God will be pleased with our song and happy with the community God has made. We will be asking God to bless our life together as we seek to walk in God's way, including in our care for the creation God made. God has been with us in the past, is with us now, and will be with us in the future. So today we will be deciding who will be leading us in the important roles of church wardens and assistant wardens. We will also decide PCC, that is Church Council, membership, where there are 6 vacancies and 4 people standing to be members for the next 3 years. Or whether you consider yourself a regular church member or not, are very welcome here this morning. For we are here above all to worship. Worship is the act of giving our life to God each day, which we will commit to again today. I now hand over to Martin, who will be leading us in the first portion of our annual church meeting. Thank you, Martin.
I have received apologies for absence from Christine Scandon. Have any other apologies been received? Okay, thank you. So we come to the election of our church wardens, and may I begin by expressing a deep appreciation to Pat Borquill and Caroline Hatton for all you have done in your leadership of us over this last year. I'm looking for you. You're probably, there's Caroline. And
No, that's Pat.
Oh, I've got glasses on. Oh, that's Pat.
Caroline went.
Oh, Caroline, we've driven her away. So can I express my deep appreciation of all they have done over this last year, particularly involved with reopening our building. We have had 2 nominations for church wardens. Pat Borquill has been nominated by Anne Hind and seconded by Christine Scandon, and Caroline Hatton was nominated by Pat Borquill and seconded by Donna Redding. Nominations having closed at 11 o'clock, there is no need for an election, so I'm delighted to declare that Caroline and Pat are our wardens for this coming year. We also have assistant wardens who have a very important role in our community. And these are appointed informally by, as it were, acclamation by us as a meeting. And the following would be delighted to serve as assistant wardens: Chris Scanlon, Victor Knight, Tonti Taylor, Kehinde Ajay, and Kenneth Finihas. Are you happy for them to be our assistant wardens during the coming year? We come to our parochial church council elections, and appointments to the PCC are for a period of 3 years, and Kehinde Ajay, Richard Amerser, Anne Hind and Donna Redding have completed their 3-year term, and we want to express our thanks and deep appreciation to you, as indeed to all the PCC in their ministry. There are 6 vacancies. There were already 2 casual vacancies, and the following 4 people have been nominated, so you will see there is opportunity for further nominations from the floor. The process is different for PCC as to wardens. Kehinde Ajay has been nominated by Caroline Hatton and seconded by Kenneth Finihas. Richard Amerser was nominated by Emma Etuk and seconded by Kehinde Ajay. Donna Redding was nominated by Peter Smith and seconded by Carol Henderson. And Tamuno Tonti Taylor, was nominated by Pat Borquill and seconded by Anne Hind. Are there any further nominations? Going. Gone. There being no further nominations and being 4 people, there's no need for election, so I'm delighted to confirm that Kehinde, Richard, Donna and Tonti as members for the coming 3 years of our PCC. Let's give them a thank you. Now I'd like to hand over to Jokey, who will speak to us from the St Marys perspective. Thank you.
Morning, everybody. Morning. Very good to be here. It is 8 years to the day since I was licensed here. 8 years, 5 years is the 8th. That's why I'm confusing. I'm jumping time. 5 years to the day. So, anyway, good news about St Marys. The overthrow, that's one big thing, and that opening in our churchyard wall, which is used all the time, very well by people walking through and often stopping if we're there at church to chat to us. We've had literally people walking into the church and staying. We've had a couple of new families have come from 2 local new estates, from Edinburgh Gate and Rambles Park, so that's wonderful and have become part of our congregation now. And so good news from that point of view, and that overthrow puts us, as well as being a wonderful walkway in and out, puts us on the sculpture trail, so good news there. More good news, slowly getting back to normal and actually getting some new people in. We lost a few people along the way, but gained some new ones, so that's good news for us. And still lots of events planned through the summer, which is lovely. And what else have we got that's good news? We have a faculty pending for a blue plaque for Hester Woodley. So for those who aren't aware of that, we have a gravestone on the wall of the church that's preserved of a former house servant who was brought as a slave from St Kitts back in the 1700 and something, and she is buried in the churchyard, and we're hoping to have this blue plaque up on the wall to commemorate her, and we'll celebrate that in Black History Month, God willing. Other good news, the development has begun to pick up again, work on that over after a sort of hiatus during COVID times, but we are now in the process of getting all the necessary permissions to start the archaeological dig. We just had a very good meeting with the archaeologist. Before we do any more, we have to have our foundations and so on checked by an archaeologist to see what is under the land behind the church. And at the same time, we hope to do what's called a material start, which will mean that we can extend the planning permission, because we've had, believe it or not, 2 years since we got planning permission, which was great celebration, but then we had the pandemic. So to extend that, we have to start digging in a particular way, and we've been arranging all that, and hope, please God, do pray for this, to start that in July. So lots of good news and exciting things for the future for St Marys. We hope you'll come and see us for the Jubilee Fun Day on Saturday the 4th, and for cream teas in August and various other events we've got planned. Thank you very much.
So for support, can I refer you to, I'm just trying to find it, in your welcome sheet you will find the annual report light. You will find it, lovely, thank you. In your welcome sheet you will find the annual report light from the PCC. This is some of the headlines from the full annual report, which is also available at back of church and can be downloaded from online. And can I refer you those with some of the headlines from that. Do read it, and also I commend to you the full report. I give thanks to God for what God has been doing over the past 2 years, and indeed the last year, but there's been something of a 2-year feel to it. I give thanks to God for your generosity, which continued despite us being closed. A year ago we were still in lockdown, not meeting. So thank you for your generosity, which enabled the ministry here and in the wider church to continue. God has been very much at work in our midweek community. One-off and new rentals have been important for our finances, not least being on trigger point. I'm delighted especially at the Harlow holiday lunch clubs, which have been such a lifeline to families, where Jokey has been heading that up here and in other churches in town. And we are glad to be able to have permitted and made space for the extension of Food Bank, which is now here 5 days a week, and now added to our Bounty Club, whereby you can come in and you pay £2.50 and you can go away with a bag of food, and that is in the afternoons following Food Bank. We now have children's after school and also youth groups during the week. These are Christian youth groups called Champions Plus and Champions Youth, which increases our mission to young people and children. We are doing this in partnership with the Red Balloon Foundation, an excellent Christian charity, mission charity. If you would like to be involved, perhaps in leadership, please speak to me. Indeed, if your child or son or daughter would like to attend, that would be absolutely wonderful. And there are details on our welcome sheet as to booking. You need to book online. We have continued to work hard on the buildings, and you will see in the light report on the front page, right-hand column, just a list of some of the things that have been achieved on caring for our buildings over the last year, and I want to thank those who've been involved in that. We've also continued to work hard towards the rewiring, relighting and new audio visuals for here. And for the latter, we are looking not only for improved systems, but also video projection and monitors. We are involved in the appropriate statutory consultation. Basically, we are ready to move on with the rewiring and lighting. All we need is the money. Our fundraising during the pandemic was only partially effective, but it got us underway. We now have a professional fundraiser who is building on that, and is about to very soon approach 35 charities. The PCC has employed him to do that. We are also engaging with the Town Council in respect of possible local development and how we may be engaged, and both the wider community and we ourselves may benefit from those changes. This is, of course, all taking longer than we had hoped, certainly than I had hoped. But it is in just such circumstances that the Scriptures urge us to watch, pray, and be patient. Scriptures are very practical. We had hoped to launch with a congregational meeting during the pandemic. We had in our sights last September, but the pandemic held things up, and we will do so hopefully during the autumn. Communications have been a particular focus, not only the survey, which we've had the opportunity to complete, but also our communications generally, social media, website, leaflets, magazine, and the rest. There have been great strides during the pandemic, but we are very conscious that there is a long way to go. We know that we're not very good at it, and so we want to keep working on this, and do please keep feeding back. And one step has been the photographs of all last year's PCC in the annual report light. And we hope to continue this. In various other areas we struggle. We struggle with regard to stewarding here at St Paul's, and I think probably at St Marys as well, having sufficient. So we know we struggle about this. Let's have a conversation about how we can find those provisions that God gives. God does provide. Maybe we're not yet doing it in the right way, so let's have a conversation together about how we can be improving and finding those resources. We have struggled during the pandemic with regard to our social life together. We are getting going again, and the MLT Ministry Leadership Team has been leading us in this, and we'll be getting, Jokey has spoken of some of the things. We've had a first relaunch of cottage prayer, and we look to our Jubilee celebrations at both churches. Our fellowship groups, discipling, has taken a hit during the pandemic. We have restarted cottage prayer, but basically our home groups have been knocked out of the park. There's one or two bits of life going on, but not a lot. So again, let's be talking about how we can re-establish that sort of discipling amongst us. So I give huge thanks to God for all that God has been doing. I know that it has not been easy for any during these past few years. But one thing it has been a delight to see is Nathan, who has completed his curacy almost, and 2 of those 3 years during the pandemic. So one of the most unusual curacies for his generation ever. I guess that it is wonderful for us to have been able to train another Joss. Dad trained here, Martin. Yep. Nathan, and I have told Nathan that when he and Beth have children, should they do so, we do hope that one of them will come and be a curate here in the parish. You know, we'd like another one, please. So we just make a note of that. And perhaps you can mention that to Bishop.
I'm sure I will.
Yeah, that would be absolutely great.